Executive Director of the Center for Public Leadership. And first of all, I want to thank our co-sponsors, the Office of Career Advancement, for being our partners on this event, and that we have this opportunity to introduce you to Harvey Mackay. I'm just going to say one comment in terms of how Harvey became a friend of our center. Warren Venice, who is the chair of the Global Advisory Council, is on his 30th book and is really the leadership maven, besides Harvey, of course. Introduced us to Harvey. And since that time, we have developed what shall I say, a mutual admiration society in terms of what we're trying to do here in our mission and what Harvey is always trying to share in terms of his principles of leadership and management with the greater public. I'm particularly thrilled, Harvey, that you decided to come to a public service school. When Harvey inaugurates any of his books, he usually goes to business schools. It's a natural fit for him. And in this case, he said, you know, Don, I'd really like to come to the Kennedy School. And I said, we would be privileged to have you here because it doesn't matter where you're headed in your career path. And I know that every one of you are on a career path that is going to be zigzag. It doesn't matter where you are in the course of your life. We need to understand what we should be doing in order to really pursue our passion and make a career for ourselves. With that being said, I also want to thank Greg Bailey, Harvey's chief of staff, for making this happen, Lisa Pellerin, and Paulina Parent-Powell. Thank you so much. Harvey Mackay is chairman of Mackay Envelope Company, a business he founded in Minneapolis in 1960. Mackay Envelope employs 600 people and manufactures 25 million envelopes per day with annual sales of $100 million. Harvey tells me he loves the envelope industry because you can only use an envelope once. And then you have to come back and order more. His greater loves, and he always says this, however, are his wife of 49 years, Carol Ann, and their 3 children and 9 grandchildren. Harvey is the author of Swim with the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive, which was on the New York Times bestseller list for 54 weeks and rated the #1 business book in the United States for 1988. It's no wonder Sharks has been endorsed by dozens of well-respected opinion leaders such as Tom Peters, Billy Graham, Charles Schwab, Ted Koppel, Gloria Steinem, Robert Redford, and Larry King, to name only a few. In 1990, his next book, Beware the Naked Man Who Offers You His Shirt, became his second New York Times #1 bestseller. Both Swim with the Sharks and Beware the Naked Man were recently named to the New York Times top 15 inspirational business books of all time. In 1997, Harvey wrote his third New York Times bestseller titled Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. You really have a knack of the titles. 2 years later, he published his fourth New York Times bestseller in Pushing the Envelope, a book of business and life lessons. In 2004, he released We Got Fired, and it's the best thing that ever happened to us. It became his third New York Times #1 bestseller. Harvey interviewed 28 famous Americans who were fired and landed on their feet. In February of 2010, Harvey unveiled his latest New York Times bestseller, right here, and it is at your place. Use Your Head to Get Your Foot in the Door, Job Search Secrets No One Else Will Tell You. Harvey's books have sold over 10 million copies worldwide, have been translated into 35 languages, and distributed in 80 countries. He's a graduate of the University of Minnesota and the Stanford University Graduate School of Business Executive Program. In April of 2004, Harvey received the prestigious Horatio Alger Award in the Supreme Court Chambers in Washington, D.C. Previous recipients are Presidents Eisenhower, Ford, and Reagan, former Secretary of State Colin Powell, and entertainer Carol Burnett. See that range here. He is an avid runner, having run 10 marathons, and a former #1 ranked tennis player in the state of Minnesota. He is the past president of the Minneapolis Chamber of Commerce, the Envelope Manufacturers Association of America, and the University of Minnesota National Alumni Association, to name only a few. Harvey is a nationally syndicated columnist with the United Feature Syndicate His weekly articles are distributed in 52 newspapers across the country. I can't imagine why Fortune magazine refers to him as Mr. Make Things Happen. Ladies and gentlemen, Harvey Mackay.
SRI, Stanford Research Institute think tank, Palo Alto, California. They did a substantive, in-depth survey on audiences. I'd like to share the results with you if I could this morning so that I can particularly tailor my remarks to this specific audience. I'm going to hold up 3 symbols. You have 5 seconds to pick one of the 3. One should give you peace of mind. One you should be able to identify with. One should be more relaxing to the eye than the other 2 symbols. Usually, your first choice is your right choice. Don't tell your neighbors. And I'll scan the card twice here because of the way the room configuration is. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pick one. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's see. How many pick the triangle? Raise them high. No for later on. Thank you. Test scores show you have unusually high intelligence. I see someone started to raise their hand now. I'm glad you're not in the envelope business. I don't want to compete with that. Well, pick the square. Pick the square. All right, test scores show you have unlimited creativity. Doesn't mean you necessarily use it, but you have it. How many pick the circle? Raise them high. Look at your neighbors. Thank you very much. SRI, Stanford Research Institute. Test scores show your minds are constantly preoccupied with booze and sex. In the right room? This is okay, Harvey. I know at least what kind of audience I've got. A lot of entrepreneurial spirit, that is for sure. And thank you very much, Donna, for the kind invitation and introduction. I'm not going to get carried away for the following reason. Last year, about 9 months ago, Northwest Airlines, flight number 367, New York, Detroit, get on the airplane, sat down, businessman sat next to me. 5 minutes later, wheels up. 10 minutes into the flight, businessman sitting next to me reaches into his briefcase, pulls out my book, Swim with the Sharks, and he starts reading it. I go crazy. He said, how do you like that book? I said, my boss gave me a choice of 3 business books to read, and I picked this one because it was the shortest. Exactly what he said to me, word for word. Can I just ask, anybody might have read Swim with the Sharks in here? Hey, thank you. I mean, don't give it arm. Well, there's not the same person right there. Okay. Well, before I get into my formal remarks, let me talk about some changes that are going on today. I don't care what industry we're talking about, banking, insurance, securities, food industry, telecommunications, pharmaceutical. More changes in the last 3, 4, 5 years than the previous 15 to 20 years. Go get the S&P Standard & Poor's 500 list, 1957, lay it down. Go get the Standard & Poor's list 500, 2009, lay it down side by side. Guess what? Only 75 companies remaining on the 2009 list. The other 425 companies gone, history, belly up, merged, purged, pushed off the list by more creative managements. You're going to hear that word a lot the next 60 minutes or so. Fast forward to 2020, and the experts won't be wrong. There'll be 375 new companies on that list in the year 2020. Don't know where they're coming from. Haven't been invented. Never heard of them. Wow, I call that only in America. This is a true story. They said to Yogi Berra, did you hear they just elected a Jewish mayor in Dublin, which they had? And Yogi said, only in America. The internet, most powerful force in the world today. It took radio 37 years to get to 50 million listeners. It took television 13 years to get to 50 million viewers. It took the internet 5 short years to get to 50 million users. Wow. And let me just tell you another thing I found. I have to share this with you. And yes, MBAers love this, but the whole world should be familiar with this. When I was growing up as a kid, the GDP was in the hundreds of millions. Then it went to the billions. Now we have a $13.8 trillion economy. Every single week I can catch NBC, CBS, ABC, Wall Street Journal, New York, all of them. I can catch them extrapolating trillion for billion. All right? We've been so desensitized to these numbers that are going on all around us. So I want to put it in its proper perspective. We're not going to sleep. We're going to count from 1 to a trillion right now. 1 of your 7, 8, 10. Got it? Not going to sleep. All of you, in your own mind, make a prediction. How long is it going to take us? To yourself, predict how long will it take us right now to count to a trillion. That's your answer. Correct answer. 31,688 years to count to a trillion. You can do that on your computer. 31,608. So you see these numbers bandied around, you have a little bit better feel, okay, perspective of what's going on. Our government, and of course I know we have a foreign audience and everything too, and these are American stats, but I've been lucky enough to speak in 60 different countries, and every country represented here I've spoken in your country. And I don't think the concepts and philosophies are going to change, but our government, in the headlines all of the time, I found this a little while ago. Little boy wanted $100 badly, he prayed for 2 weeks, but nothing happened. Then he decided to write God a letter requesting $100. When the postal authorities received the letter addressed to God, USA, they decided to forward it to President Obama. The president was so impressed and touched and amused that he instructed his secretary to send the little boy a $5 bill. He thought this would appear to be a lot of money to a little boy. The little boy was delighted with the $5. Sat down and wrote a thank you note to God, which read, "Dear God, thank you very much for sending me the money. However, I noticed that for some reason you had to send it through Washington, and as usual, those bureaucrats deducted $95. Well, plenty has happened since my college days. When I graduated from the University of Minnesota, 1954, a gallon of milk cost 92 cents. Loaf of bread, 17 cents. Postage stamp, 3 cents. The high for the Dow, what was it? 338. And I drove a fire engine red Pontiac Star Chief with a sticker price $2,500. Today, 2010, that's 54 years further on the timeline, gallon of milk, $3.69, loaf of bread, $2.80. Postage stamp, 44 cents. Dow has bounced back to around 11,000. The Pontiac, that make is nada. It's history. Now, Tom Friedman, many of you are familiar with him, New York Times, of course, columnist, a friend. I love the guy. He wrote The World is Flat. Many of you, I'm sure, have read that book. In it, he says the following. When he was growing up as a kid, his parents would say, "Finish your dinner." All right? People in India and China are starving. And now he says, when his 2 daughters are finished with dinner, he says, go to his 2 daughters, finish your homework. People in India and China are starving for your jobs. Now, you are the next generation of experts in the realm of international diplomacy. So you may already be familiar with another nugget of Tom Friedman's wisdom. It's called the Dell theory of conflict prevention. Tom Friedman's theory relates to computer mega giant Dell, of course, and it works as follows. No 2 countries that are both part of a major global supply chain, like Dell's, will ever fight a war against each other as long as they are both part of the same global supply chain. Very interesting. Speaking of books, they've been an integral part of your world here at the Harvard Kennedy School. In 20 years, will the Harvard Kennedy School Library be someplace you visit or an electronic gizmo you hold on your lap? A recent article in New Yorker on ebooks reported as follows. Although they account for only an estimated 3 to 5% of the market, their sales increased 177% last year. It was projected that they would eventually account for between 25 and 50% of all books sold. And you can bet those books will be in the right language too. China, experts say, will be the #1 e-reader market in the year 2015. And that's like almost tomorrow. Plenty will be happening, of course, in this exciting new world, but you'll have to be good to hang on to a job with a future. No matter what corner of the world, you'll be plying your trade. Let me throw a new one at you. I call it Mackay's Law, and it works this way. Take the number of people working in any department, in any company, in any government, in any country. Let's say it's 25. My projection is that in 5 years, that number is likely to be 15. And lastly, when it comes to education, we all know if you think education is expensive, try ignorance. So this morning I'd like to talk to you about some ideas, concepts, philosophies, tools that can help you prepare for excellence, even when you're already very, very successful. They're plain, simple, common sense ideas. And please remember, and I want to underline, please remember, they happen to work for me. If just one or two ideas happen to work for you, you can use it in your home, business, life, whatever. Terrific. I like to call that take-home value. Now, some of you might say, well, wait a minute, I'm already doing that. Well, I submit to each and every one of you, can you improve on what you're already doing? Some of you might say, hey, tried that 5 years ago, didn't work. Well, strategies and tactics change. What didn't happen and worked 5 years ago might work today. Some of you might say, hey, that's a terrific idea. I think I'll try that when I get back to my business, home, family, whatever. And also I'll be talking, of course, about the book that you have at your chairs. And you can know this, that a lot of things that I say now in the next 60, 70 minutes are all tied in to getting the job if you just understand the concepts and philosophies. And then we'll specifically talk about getting that job and hanging on to that job. So idea number one, some of the best people spend their most productive time looking out the window. I'll tell you a story about a hard-driving entrepreneur. He had tickets to the New York Philharmonic. They're going to be playing Schubert's Unfinished Symphony, one of his favorites. Suddenly he can't attend. So he decides to give it to one of his key employees, his efficiency expert, or what is now known as his work study management executive. Entrepreneur comes back in town 3 days later, calls him in. How'd you like the concert? And the work study management executive is ready, hands his boss a memo, and went something like this. A, for considerable periods of time, the four oboe players had nothing to do. The number should be reduced, and their work spread over the whole orchestra, thus eliminating peaks of activity. B, all the 12 violins were playing identical notes. It seems like an unnecessary duplication. Staff of this section should be drastically cut. A large volume of sound is really required. This could be obtained through the use of an electronic amplifier. C, no useful purpose is served by repeating with the horns the passage that's already been handled by the strings. If all such redundant passages were eliminated, the concert could have been reduced from 2 hours to 20 minutes. If Schubert had only paid attention to these matters, he probably would have been able to finish his symphony after all. Moral of the story, every organization has people who see the big picture. Don't let them get bogged down in a lot of meaningless meetings and paper shuffling. It seems obvious, doesn't it? So you see one of your key people looking out the window, catch yourself looking out the window, congratulate yourself. Probably doing the company a lot more good than anything else you're doing. You're thinking, hardest, most valuable task any person performs. It's what got all of you here this morning. Don't stifle it. Encourage it. I wish I would have said it. I didn't. Robert Frost did. He said, you know, the mind is a wonderful organ. Starts working the moment you get up in the morning and doesn't stop until you get to the office. Robert Frost. There's zero, none, no correlation between IQ and creativity. Every study known to mankind will tell you that. No correlation between IQ and creativity. Without every one of you, be way more creative, and I hope again that you believe that, all right, at the end of these 60 to 75 minutes. If I give you $1, you give me $1, we each have $1, I give you an idea. If you give me an idea, we each have 2 ideas. When anything's been done the same way over a long period of time, sometimes it's a good sign it's being done the wrong way. So what am I saying? I'm saying think big, think bold, think creative, think stretch, think quantum leaps. Always think becoming a differentiator. Think vision, think innovation, think speed, think customize, think focus, think flexible. And I don't care if you're running a two-person lemonade stand, everyone here, of course, has to think global. Sometimes it's risky not to take a risk. Let me put it differently. If you walk backwards, you'll never stub your toe. Let's go back to vision for a moment. Helen Keller, totally blind at the age of 6 months. Brilliant author, brilliant lecturer, cum laude graduate, Radcliffe College. She's making a speech on a college campus. Time for Q&A. Mean-spirited questioner asked her the following. Tell me, Miss Keller, is losing your eyesight the worst thing in the world that can happen to anyone? No, she said, it's losing your vision. The eyesight is what we see in front of us. Vision, all the way down the road. They did a study 3.5 years ago, American Marketing Association. They went and asked 500 executives, mostly all CEOs, presidents, what do you have to do to survive the next 7 to 10 years? 81% answer, vision and creativity. Now get this, 6% of the 81%, only 6% of the 81% said in the study their company is doing a good job of it. Wow. So what is this creative thinking that I'm talking about? We're not talking about rocket science stuff here. We're just talking about finding a new or improved way to do anything. That's all we're talking about here, nothing more. I love to study creative companies. I love to study creative people, just sound people, but people with a little bit of differentiation, maybe a little tiny bit of thinking outside the box. Hope I don't alienate anyone from New York here. My experiences again. I'm going there for, of course, 40 plus years. My experience, 70, 80, 90% of all the cab drivers in New York are rude and caustic. And I know 70, 80, 90% of those cabs are not clean. And I know that 90% have bulletproof partitions. I go Minneapolis to New York, LaGuardia, jump into a clean cab. Nice music coming out of the system there. All right? I say I'm going to Park Lane Hotel. And he turns around and he says, hi, my name's Wally. And he hands me a mission statement. A mission statement. He's going to get me there safely, courteously, on time. We pull away. He holds up the USA Today and New York Times, said, be my guest if you didn't get a chance to read the newspaper in the airplane. 3 minutes later, he says, hey, I know they don't feed you on the airlines anymore. A little brown paper bag on the back ledger there. Apple, Snicker, as I recall, banana. Going on my tree, New York City. 5 more minutes later, he holds up his telephone. He says, if you've got your telephone, it's $1 a minute. And 5 minutes later, he's got CDs all over. Opera, you know, hard rock, you name it, mister. So where'd you learn this? He said, on a radio talk show. How long have you been doing this? Oh, he said 3, 4 years. I said, I know I'm prying, but how much extra in tips do you make because of this? Oh, he said about $15,000 a year. Extra in tips. Wow. He doesn't know it, but he's one of my heroes. This is my daughter. She lives in Connecticut, Westport. Her name is Mimi. She sends out a holiday card. She happened to have twin boys 15 years ago, twin girls 11 years ago. Anyway, this is a normal holiday card. 99% of the people every year, they thank her for sending her their holiday card. How does she do this? Very simple. She sends this out in March. Why put it in December with all the other gazillion envelopes and cards and Christmas greetings? So little things mean a lot? Not true. Little things mean everything, and you hear that over and over. Here's some creativity killers. Those of you in the workforce, been out there and then come back to school here. Let's see if you recognize any of these around the water cooler, and you will. If you haven't, you'll hear them in the years to come. Creativity killers. It's not in the budget. Boss will never go for it. Hey, great idea. Let's form a committee to tackle it. Hey, that's against our policy. Let's think about it for a while. It's too late to fix it now. It's too soon to fix it now. That's the kind of idea that cost your predecessor her job. The competition already does it that way. Competition doesn't do it that way. Hey, let's let the competition try it first and see what happens. If we do it, they'll wonder why we didn't do it sooner. And my all-time favorite is, sounds like a great idea, let's run it by legal. Most creative person ever learned about. New York City, okay, real estate tycoon rolls into Miami Bank. Says his wife has decided she wants to hop over to Bahamas for a week. He's a fast $3,000. Banker says, sorry to know who you are. He said, I'm a very successful real estate operator. Well, he said, that doesn't matter. I'd have to have some collateral. Oh, he says, I got a brand new Cadillac outside. Fine. Banker takes it, signs the application. He gets the $3,000. 7 days go by, comes back, pays off the $3,000 note, $25 interest for the week. Banker says, I don't understand, sir. I called New York City. You're a very successful real estate operator. Why'd you have to come into my bank and borrow a paltry $3,000 for? Can you think of a better place to keep my car for 7 days for $25? Think. Next idea. Practice makes perfect. Not true. But add one word. Perfect practice makes perfect. Practice something time and time again, and if you don't know what you're doing, all you're really doing is perfecting an error. You put a ceiling on how good you can become. For those of you that are golfers out there, you can play 8 days a week. You can practice 8 days a week. You got a loop in your swing. What are you doing? You're perfecting an error. You put a ceiling on how good you can become. I've studied the Russian, Chinese, Japanese, and Arabic languages, and quite frankly, people think that I'm a heck of a linguist. Catch that? Guess you'll have to take my word for it. Actually, I'm a lot slower learner than most of the people with whom I started my language classes with. But there's one marked difference. I started with all of them, but I finished, and they didn't. I just want to repeat that. I started with all of them, but I finished, and they didn't. In Russian, it might take 200 hours. All right, Japanese, 300 hours. Mandarin, Chinese, 400 hours. But eventually, the breakthrough does come. And when it does, it's like a stone cutter, hammering away at his rock 100 times without a dent in it. And yet on the 101st blow, the rock will split in two. And you know it was not that blow that did it, but all that had gone before. If you're not willing to practice and practice until you get it right, you'll never make the breakthrough on the 101st blow. Make the 100 and hopeful for the breakthrough on the 101st. Let me give you a quick little example. Mandarin, of course, Chinese, they have a problem. 15 to 20% of all words are spelled exactly the same way. But they have 2 to 4 different meanings. That's really a problem. Yen is an everyday Chinese word. How do you pronounce yen 4 different ways? Well, let me help you. It goes yen, 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 yen. This yen means salt. This yen means cigarettes. This yen means to perform, and this yen means to swallow. So if you want to count from 1 to 10 in Mandarin, it goes sure. That's why it's a little sing-song language. Now, all right, all of us, we've made the commitment. We're going to study Mandarin. We're going to become fluent in Mandarin. Let's see a show of hands. Once we make that decision, how many think they will become fluent in Mandarin once you make the decision? All right, let's see a show of hands. I think they become fluent. Raise your hand. Okay, now, that's about 3% of it. To the 97% that didn't raise your hands, piece of cake! There's over 1 billion people that speak Chinese. But guess what? Every person in this room can become fluent in Chinese, or any language they want, as long as they practice the right concepts over a long period of time. And just one real quickie, my son and I took Japanese together. He's at Stanford getting his degree. You know, I'm 23 years older, and I'm a little slower learner. He's on page 150, I'm on page 50. What's the difference? So it took me an extra year and a quarter. What's the difference? So every one of us can all become, okay, whatever result we want. You can get there. It just might take you a little bit longer. I made this up very recently, but I have a lot of coaches. I never spend a penny. I make an investment in myself. These are the coaches I have now, and of course I've had a ton of them in the past, but I have a personal trainer, I have a speech coach, I got a foreign language coach, I got a humor coach, I got an idea coach, I got a marathon coach, I got a golf coach, a tennis coach, a skiing coach, swimming coach, dancing lessons, that's my wife's coach, but mine too. But in the past I've had table tennis, and bowling coach, and boxing coach, and scuba diving, water skiing, and all of this stuff. Now, why do I tell you this? Because whatever my God-given potential is, whatever my God-given talent is, that's it. I can't get any better. What do I have to worry? Throughout life, I'll focus, I'll make a decision, I'll concentrate, I'll get the best instruction I can, I'll have a good work ethic, I'll be good, I'll be persistent, and I can't get any better. So that's what I'm saying to each and every one of you. It doesn't matter whether it's public speaking, doesn't matter foreign languages, you want to be a 10 on a 1 to 10, 10 being the best on the computer. You can all be 10s in the computer. Just a matter of, when you get there. It might take you a little bit longer than someone else. That's the reason why I mention it. Next idea. Believe in yourself, even when no one else does. What's a perfect example? Well, let me just tell you, let me go on, I'm sorry, let me just back up for a minute. Life is not a parabolic curve. It doesn't go straight up. A lot of lumps, a lot of bumps. A lot of throttling up, a lot of throttling down. I've never yet met a successful person that hasn't had to overcome either a little or a lot of adversity in his or her life. And if most of you will examine this, I think most of you will agree with me if you take a real good in-depth look at that. Things aren't going well for me back in Minneapolis. I just swivel around, right on the wall, I have this. Can't read it enough. Hope some of you have heard it before. You can't hear it enough. It goes like this. Anytime you feel like quitting throughout your career, perhaps you remember this story of one of our people. He failed in business in 31. Ran as a state legislator, lost in 32. Tried business again in 33 and he failed again. Sweetheart died in 35. He had a nervous breakdown in 36. He was defeated for Congress in 43, defeated again for Congress in 48, defeated when he ran for the Senate in 55, and defeated for the Vice Presidency of the United States in 56. Ran for the Senate again in 58, and he lost again. This man never quit. He kept trying to the last. In 1860, this man, Abraham Lincoln, was elected President of the United States. Seems like if we want to triple our success ratio, might have to triple our failure rate. Talking about failure, what about the wimpy guy at a bar, hovering over his drink? In comes a 6'6" monster, bells, whistles, tattoos, boots, elbows him right off the stool, inhales his drink. How do you like that, sonny boy? Mister, I'm having a bad day. I went to work this morning, got downsized out of my job. Went home, told my wife the bad news, and she left me, and they stole my car this afternoon, and now I come in here to commit suicide, and you drink my poison. Remember the 4-minute mile? They've been trying to do it since the days of the ancient Greeks. Found the old records, how the Greeks tried to accomplish this. They had wild animals chase the runners, hoping that'd make them run faster. They tried tiger's milk, not the stuff you get down the supermarket. I'm talking about the real thing, and nothing worked. So they decided physiologically, impossible for a human being to run a mile in 4 minutes. Our bone structure is all wrong, wind resistance was too great, inadequate lung power, a million reasons. Until one day, one human being proved that the doctors, the trainers, the athletes themselves, he proved them all wrong. And miracle of miracles, in the 2 years after Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile, another dozen runners broke the 4-minute mile. Talking about my daughter, Mimi, a few minutes ago, she called up, I don't know, 15, 12, 16, 17 years. Hey, Dad, let's take a crack at the New York Marathon. I said, fine. I've been a 2-3 miler for the better part of 15 years. I trained for 6 months, shot the gun off in the air. 23,000 runners started. 20,000 runners finished. 1,500,000 people lined the streets. First place at Kenyan, 2 hours, 8 minutes, 11 seconds. Last place finisher, 20,000th runner to cross the finish line, a Vietnam veteran. 4 days, 19 hours, 7 minutes, and some odd seconds. This human being covered 26 miles, 385 yards with no legs. He ran on his hands. When my daughter and I passed him in the first few minutes of the race, it wasn't too difficult to finish the race. So who says that you can't accomplish your goals? Who says that you're not better and stronger and harder working and more able in your competition? It doesn't matter if they say you can't do it. The only thing that matters is if you say it. So we all know, if we believe in ourselves, there's hardly anything that we can't accomplish. I rolled in several years ago the John Gardner Tennis Ranch, Phoenix, Arizona, Scottsdale. Beautiful facility, one of the best. Went up to the desk, wanted to play some tennis. I'm standing here, a woman's behind the desk with the sheets and the pairings. I said, I'd like to play some doubles. She looks at her sheet, have a game for you, court 1, 1 o'clock, thank you very much. And I start to walk away. Fellow rushes right by me, comes up, and I mean, he just pounds at the desk. What are you doing? Put me in with a 90-year-old for. So I came here to play some tennis. I've never heard of such a thing. He's screaming at her. I was just 10, 12, 14 feet away. And she says, well, I didn't know how you played. He said he wouldn't hold up the game, and he keeps screaming at her. Last thing she says to him, if you want to play, it's court 1, 1 o'clock. Whoosh! Walks right by me. I show up at court 1, 1 o'clock. Unhappy camper shows up, court 1, 1 o'clock. The 90-year-old shows up. And a fourth player. Well, we spin the rackets to see who's partners. I get the 90-year-old. Beat him 6-1, 6-1 the first 2 sets. Time for a third set. I played the backhand court the first 2 sets. As we're switching sides, he says to me, do you mind if I play the backhand court this set? I'd like to work on my weaknesses. I'd like to work on his weaknesses. 90 years old. Beat him 6-1 the third set. Now, as I'm walking my 90-year-old wallflower off of the court, he says to me with a wry smile, but you might be interested to know, I'm ranked number 1 in the United States in the 85s. His name was Ferdinand Kramer, Draper and Kramer, huge real estate company out of Chicago. Still running his business at the age of 90, still the first one there at 7 a.m. out of Chicago, still on the board of trustees, University of Chicago, and he came in behind his serve. Wow. And he doesn't know, but again, another one of my big-time heroes. Incidentally, you can't believe in yourself without a goal, so very succinctly, what is a goal? A goal is a dream with a deadline. I'd like to repeat that. A goal is a dream with a deadline. Measurable, identifiable, specific, attainable, in writing. Pale ink is better than the most retentive memory, again, which means write the short-term goals down, write the long-term goals down, and look at them. Next idea. Things are not necessarily as we always perceive them to be. Example, mother in the kitchen hollers up to her son, get down here, you're late for school. Son hollers back, I don't want to go to school and I'm not going to school. Kids don't like me. Teachers don't like me. Everyone's talking behind my back, I'm not going to school. Mother rushes upstairs, opens the bedroom door, points to her and says, you get out of bed this very minute, and you're going to school for 2 reasons. Number 1, you're 41 years old. And number 2, you're the principal of the school. Perception. Try and solve this riddle. Please don't holler out the answer. Just to yourself. Try and solve this riddle. Here we go. 10 lines. A man and his father are traveling by car. Car stalls on a railroad track. Train comes along and hits the car. The father is killed instantly. The man is severely injured. They take the man into the hospital. The surgeon takes one look at the man and says, I can't operate on this man. He is my son. How can that be? Answer to yourself. How can that be? Answer. surgeon is his mother. Need a show of hands. How many got that? That's true. That's probably higher than anywhere I've seen. Sure, 3/4 of the room. 25 years ago it was 5%. 10 years ago, 10 or 15%. 3/4 of the room. 5 to 10 years from now, it'll be 100%. Took us 30 years to figure out that African Americans could manage baseball and football teams and hopefully someday own them. Michael Jordan broke that barrier 5 years ago. 30 years to figure out that women can do the tough jobs as well as men. Here's the stats from the U.S. colleges. Again, apology to all the people from other countries, but U.S. stats I have. U.S. stats as of last year, 65% of all the pharmacy majors were women. 33% accounting majors, women. 41% MBAers, women. Law school, 42% women. Medical school, 46% women. Women entrepreneurs multiplying 2, 3, 4 times faster than men, depending on which area of the United States that we study. According to Carlson Wagonlit, world's largest travel agency, bigger than American Express. Right? 3 years from now, women business travelers will equate equally with their male counterparts, up from 4% a short 20 years ago. Now here's what I call man bites dog. Women business owners employ more people than all of the Fortune 500 companies combined. And as of 3 years ago, women business owners have passed up their male counterparts. So you see, some of these social paradigms have been shattered. Next idea is plan. Some people act as if the best plan they had was 5 minutes ago. Not true. All right, let me tell you about our best plan. We've developed the finest CD library in the United States. You don't go to school once for a lifetime. You're in school all of your life. If you live, average life expectancy, American male 73 years of age, American female 79 years of age, and you travel 10,000 miles a year in your car, guess what? You spend 3 years in your automobile. Why not turn your automobile into a university? And of course, that's what we've been doing for many, many decades. Let's say one of our salespeople, he or she hears a good idea. That's fine, but not good enough at our company if they hear it. Knowledge does not become power until it's used. Let me repeat that. Knowledge does not become power until it's used. Ideas without action are worthless. So they have to hear the idea, take it to the marketplace, hopefully get the result. Not good enough at our company, all right? You have to come back and share it with everyone else on the payroll. The boat won't go if we all don't row. Teamwork, team building sounds corny, sounds sophomoric, sounds shop-worn. Nothing could be further from the truth. What is teamwork? It's a collection of diverse people who respect each other and are committed to each other's successes. And when you get that, you'll slam your competitors into the pavement and you'll hand them their heads. Boston Celtics, all right, never once. They won 17 NBA World Basketball Championships, never once had the leading scorer during any of those championship seasons. All teamwork, all of the way. Now, people ask me back in Minneapolis, how many salespeople do you have? I get that St. Paul, Minneapolis, I walk the streets all the time. And I say 600. 600 people selling envelopes? How many employees do you have? 600. Everyone sells envelopes at McKay Mitchell Envelope. Everyone has their antenna. Everyone's bringing us ideas. And we reward them creatively for those tips. Hey, did you see this? They're bringing in, got all these people bringing in mail all the time from their homes. Did you see this Reader's Digest? Heard they send out 20 million of these, 2 shiny pennies coming through the window. They minted 40 million shiny pennies. Wow. Do we call on them? That's happening all of the time. It's amazing what you can get done if you don't care who gets the credit. Best story I ever heard on teamwork. Fellow's driving his car 25 miles outside of town, big city. Rainstorm comes up immediately, his car's stuck in the mud. There's a farmyard 3 minutes away. walks the 3 minutes, raps on the door, says, my farmer answers the door, my car's stuck up on the highway. Might you be able to help? Well, he says, I have a blind mule named Elmo out in the back. Fine. They trudge Elmo 150 yards through the muck and mire. Farmer hooks him up to the car and he hollers out, pull, Sam, pull. Nothing happens. Pull, Jackson, pull. Nothing happens. Wow. Pull, Bessie, pull. Nothing happens. Pull, Elmo, pull. Elmo rips it. Where's that car? Right out of the mud. Driver's confused and perplexed. He says, I don't understand. What'd you have to call out all those different names for? Look, if he didn't think he had any help, he wouldn't even try. Next idea, moving along. And if Donna said to me, Harvey, we got a problem. Something's come up, you got 10 minutes, that's it, good luck. Got your back. Then this would be it. This would be the 10 minutes, head and shoulders above the rest. Idea. People don't care how much you know about them once they realize how much you care about them. That's a perfect example of an organization not in touch with their people. My choice might be the military. You see, General doesn't see it as his job to figure out what a private is thinking. It's the general's job to tell the colonel, tell the major, tell the captain, lieutenant, sergeant, private, corporal, private what to do. Good generals are a little bit different, though, and I happen to think very controversial. But General Westmoreland, to some degree, always wanted to figure out what his troops were thinking about. I shared the podium with him on a cruise ship. He told this story on himself, kind of proves the point to a degree. Back in Seoul, Korea, Westmoreland is talking to 10,000 Korean cadets. Obviously, they didn't speak English. So he had to go through an interpreter. 10,000 Korean cadets, interpreter here. Most speakers like to open up with a humorous story. Westmoreland, no different. He takes 45 seconds, tells a humorous story. Interpreter, standing right next to him, takes 7 seconds. All of a sudden, 10,000 Korean cadets are howling with laughter. Westmoreland is outraged. What's going on here? So I take 45 seconds to tell a story. You take 7 seconds. They're all howling with laughter. What'd you tell them? I tell them, American general tell funny story. Everybody laugh. Now, we've invented a new product at Mackay Envelope Company some 40, 45 years ago. As you might have guessed, it isn't an envelope. It's a 66-question customer profile we require all of our salespeople to fill out. You wouldn't believe how much we know about our customers. IRS wouldn't believe how much we know about our customers. And I'm not talking about their taste in envelopes either. We want to know based on routine conversation and observation what a customer is like as a human being, what he or she feels strongly about, what he's most proud of having achieved, any status symbols in his or her offices. In other words, we want to know what makes that customer/client tick. So, before we go into the, and I see I've got it somewhere, you'll get it at the end of the program, before we go into the 66, here's your mid-quarter and final exam. All right, we don't have mid-quarters here, but here's your final exam. I'm going to holler out a question. Please don't holler out the answer. Raise your hand, we'll go around the room until we get a winner, winner, winner. I have an extra one in my briefcase in the back. See me after the program. A winner gets my shark tag. Okay, got an extra one. Keep your shark proof for sure. Okay, I'm going to step back. I've been playing basketball. I've got split vision. Raise your hand if you think you know the answer. Don't holler out the answer. Going too fast for anyone? Here we go. Question. What's the sweetest sounding word in the English language? I saw that hand first, and then yours, yes.
Person's name.
Person's name, and your first name is?
Paulina.
Paulina. Let's give her a hand for it. She's fast. Very good. Sweetest sounding word in the English language, sound of your own name on someone else's lips. And when you now remember their names with some individual characteristics about that person, now you meet the real test of salesmanship. You know how you get the order. You get all the reorders. So here's the 66 very, very briefly. And here's what's critical also. This is, we have a folder form here. Of course, it's on the computer. This is not just for customers. This is for our suppliers. I want the best paper supplier in the whole country, if not the world. I want the best carton supplier. I want the best ink supplier. I want the best advertising agency feeding me ideas. So anyone that walks through our front door, we try to build a long-term relationship. Very important, long-term relationship. And so here, as far as the customers go, we call on 3,000 accounts. We're in 20 different countries, and we want to know the following. So 3,000 buyers, or okay, they used to call them purchasing agents, now they're purchasing managers. We want to know, of course, their birth date and place if we can find it out. We try to find out as many answers as we can. Here's 15 of the 66 questions maybe. I want to know about their education, college, high school year, graduated when, I want to know about their family, marital status if they happen to be married, spouse's name, spouse's education, spouse's interest, children's education. I want to know about previous employment, special interest, clubs, professional associations, politically active, active in his or her community, hobbies and recreational interests, vacation habits. Question number 66 on the form. Does your competitor have more and better answers to the above questions than you do? This is a concept philosophy tool, doesn't answer all the questions, but dramatically increases the probability you will get the job, you will get the business, whatever you're selling, you will communicate your ideas. Again, little things mean a lot, not true, little things mean everything. Very important. I call it humanize. Humanize your selling strategy. Now, I could get our sales force up here, we could keep you here for a month, 24/7, a month with stories. I'm going to just tell you one. Just one story. Happens to be my favorite because it involved the most amount of money in my career at a time when it just helped my career take off. I'm calling on the number 2 envelope user in the state of Minnesota, buyer, purchasing manager. Number 2 user, big account, want the business. 2 years I called on them, 0 business. Buying from my arch competitor, Tension Envelope Company. One day I made a pit stop, asking for him. He's not there. But I knew the gatekeeper, and she informed me the following, that his 11-year-old son, Minneapolis, got hit by a bicycle, got hit by a car, riding his bicycle. He's in Abbott Northwestern Hospital, and I happen to know from all the calls I've made that the kid loves hockey, the kid plays goalie, his father coaches him. So I immediately went over to Minnesota North Stars, had some contacts at the time, got a goalie stick, had 20 team members, the North Stars signed the stick to the little kid with a message, shipped the goalie stick to the hospital. $10 million later in envelopes. $10 million. Little things mean a lot, not true, little things mean everything. That little outside the box, little differentiation, little creativity, that's all. All that did was he gave me a couple piddly little orders. And he came over to see our plant. Then he went to Portland, then he went to Iowa. And he eventually, over a period of time, built him into one of our top 5 accounts. So that's the reason why I mentioned that particular story. It's very, very important. Don't forget now, the gatekeeper. We're talking about getting jobs now. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, trying to get through to the person doing the interviewing. The gatekeeper. There's no difference between a gatekeeper, which is an assistant executive, assistant to the person you're calling on. No difference between that human being, all right, and the customer himself or herself. Very, very important. You have to have a deep down burning desire to find out about everybody that you're doing business with, everybody you meet. I'm a lucky guy. My best friend in the whole world is a guy named Lou Holtz, formerly head coach at the University of Notre Dame. He's in the Hall of Fame, coached there 11 years. They equate him as one of the greatest coaches of all time and one of the best at Notre Dame. But we're joined at the hip. We call each other brother. And I've learned a lot from him. If you were to ever meet this Lou Holtz anywhere in the country, and you had a 2-3 minute conversation with him, guess what? As he's saying goodbye, he'll look you right in the eye, and he'll say, if I can ever help you, if I can ever do anything for you, let me know. But the difference is he means it. That's the difference. He means it, which is so important. Now, you can incidentally hit my website. I don't sell anything on my website. It's called HarveyMackay.com. Well, you might be able to buy 1 or 2 piddly little things, but it's set up only to help everyone in this room. HarveyMackay.com. There'll be a toolbar there, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes when we get into the jobs. But that's important. All right, let's bring it a little bit closer to home. Hypothetical. Let's say I moved to Boston. Doesn't matter what I'm selling, widgets, envelopes, nuts and bolts, insurance, security, doesn't matter what. But I'm going to make a call on someone. I want the business, big account. Guess what? There are no cold calls in our company. No such thing as a cold. We prepare to win. We do our homework. We humanize our selling strategy. And it's the same thing again when you're job hunting. Just go out there cold and walk in cold without doing your homework on the company and the individual. And we'll talk about that again in a few minutes. So I want the business. This person doesn't know in my brain bank, okay, that I've prepared all of this, okay, knowledge, so that I can level the playing field. Let's say his name is Sean Sheehan. Where's Sean? We ever met other than 1 second, 30 seconds outside?
No.
Never met you before, have I?
No.
No. Hey, want the business. Big account. He doesn't know, incidentally, you know what I know before I've gone in there. Now, he's a student in the mid-career program at the school here, Harvey Mackay School. All right, so I happen to know, don't forget now, I'm going to sell him something. Before I walk in, I know that he lives in Arlington during the school year. Otherwise, his address is Montpelier, Vermont. His birthday is May 15th. He was born in Dover, Delaware, raised in Southampton, Massachusetts. Sean graduated from Wilson High School, American University in D.C., double major in political science and environmental study. His favorite place to vacation is Camel's Hump Mountain in Vermont. He likes to eat a lot of pasta and eggs. His favorite singer is Bob Dylan. His favorite TV shows are The Office, The Colbert Report, The Daily Show. Jenny enjoys photography, hiking. Sean is married to Jenny. Their anniversary, of course, is April 23rd. Sean and Jenny have one child. Owen turned 2 yesterday. They have another boy on the way, due August 15th. Sean likes to hike, bike, go camping, run marathons. He's run approximately 7 or 8 of them. Do woodworking, make beer. Member of the DC Home Brewers Association. He follows the Red Sox, Patriots, Bruins, and Celtics. Prior to going to the Harvard Kennedy School, Sean worked 12 years for the Center for a New American Dream in Washington, D.C. Sean is bright, friendly, loyal, a practical joker. His favorite holiday is April Fool's Day. Now, this is the short list. I don't have a lot of time here. I submit to every person in the room, what's the probability I will sell Sean over a long period of time? Or that if he's doing the hiring, I'll at least be a finalist and I'll be invited back for a second time. What's the probability? Doggone right. It's almost 100%. And if I don't know any of this going in, I'll read the walls, I'll read the desk, I'll read the reception room. You can't work at Mackay Envelope Company unless you can read upside down. But I will, again, level the playing field. You can't talk about business whenever you're talking and going out, anything, selling ideas. You can't talk business all the time. Most of the records, all right, most of the studies show 70% social and 30% business. That's how you humanize your selling strategy. You cannot, under any set of circumstances, know enough, okay, about your competitors, the audiences, all right, customers, employees, whatever. Example, Al gets a call from Harold. Harold says, "You're coming to Rotary tomorrow." Al says, "Yeah, I'll be there. Have a problem. My guest speaker just canceled. Might you be able to fill in?" Al says, "Well, sure." Harold says, "What might you talk about?" "I'm going to talk about sex." Fine. Next day, 45-minute speech, standing ovation, comes back home. Wife said, "How'd the speech go?" Al said, "Fine." She said, "What'd you talk about?" Now, Al is smart enough to know that his wife thinks that he doesn't know anything about sex. So he says, "Skiing." "Oh," she says, "I see, skiing." Next day, Al's wife's at the supermarket. There's Harold's wife an aisle away. Harold's wife howls out, "Hey, talk to my husband. Heard your husband gave a great speech at Rotary. He must be terrific." And she says, "I don't understand. He's only done it once and his hat blew off." Next idea. 2 times in life when you're totally alone. Just before you die, and just before you make a 5-minute speech. If you doubt the concept of eternity, try and make a 5-minute speech. And again, There's just no substitute for being able to get up on your feet and all of you have had this training and course. But some people have a tougher time with it. Remember about give it all you got, coaching, whatever. On a 1 to 10, if you're not a 9 or 10, if your peers don't give you a 9 or 10, then back to the drawing board, back to Toastmasters International. We have a few of them in the room here too. Best kept secret, one of the best kept secrets in the world. And they're in 100 countries too. Back to Dale Carnegie course, back to night school, here, wherever, all right, on campus or wherever, back home, wherever home is, and just get some more skills. Because whether you're talking to 1,000 people or one person, you're selling ideas. You want to get hired. If you want to get hired, you better be good on your feet. And you have a reading, writing, and speaking vocabulary. That speaking vocabulary better be, again, on a 1 to 10, better be a 9 or a 10. And when you become, of course, a better speaker, then you know, obviously, become a better manager, and so forth. Much easier to communicate. I've sat in hundreds of talks. I can tell you over 25% of them, I'd rather watch two guys fish. I mean, the speakers just haven't prepared to win, they don't project, haven't done their homework, whatever it is, and they just give an average presentation. Next idea. Because all of you and some of you will be managers, and you'll be having direct reports over a long period of time. It isn't the people you fire who make your life miserable. It's the people you don't fire who make your life miserable. And whenever I say that, I get more amens than a Billy Graham sermon. Anyone who thinks he or she is indispensable should stick your finger in a bowl of water and notice the hole it leaves when you pull it out. The Wall Street Journal asked 100 executives, what's the toughest thing you have to do? You all know the answer. Fire another human being. Terminate another human being. Now, as Paul Harvey would say, here's the rest of the story. 92% of those executives said, I should have done it a lot sooner. None of them ever said, gosh, I wish I had Paul or Mary back on the payroll. Find something you love to do, you'll never have to work a day in your life. Those are the kinds of people you want on your payroll. I call it TGIM at Mackay. Thank God it's Monday. We know that 80% of our people can't wait to get to work till Monday. How do I know that 80% out of 600? Because I've been calling them in for 40 plus years. We want constant, immediate, unfiltered feedback, all right, from our people, from our customers, from our employees, from our partners, from our suppliers. So therefore we know what's going on. Now, no one can talk me out of this following thought. It's one thing that I'll stay hard on all the way. If, and you're going to become managers, and some of you right now, some of you have a few direct reports in the room right now, if you ever have to fire or terminate another person, as long as you live, and he or she is shocked or surprised, guess what? You are a poor manager. Agreements prevent disagreements. You can't change the rules in the middle of the game. All starts with hiring. I hope we have time to cover that in a minute or two. I repeat, agreements prevent disagreements. Can't raise the bar in the middle of the game. Next idea. Make sure you know who's buttering your bread. Make sure you know who's buttering your bread. Bill Bradley told this story on himself in Philadelphia when at a restaurant, orders dinner, busboy comes up, puts a pat of butter on a roll down. Bradley says, like another pat of butter. One pat of butter to a customer, sir. Bill Bradley says, don't you know who I am? Busboy says, no, who? So my name's Bill Bradley. Graduated #1 in my class, Princeton University. Associated Press, first string, All-American basketball. Academic Associated Press, first string, All-American. First round draft choice, NBA. Elected Rhodes Scholar. Elected U.S. Senator. Those are very impressive credentials, Mr. Bradley, but don't you know who I am? No, who? I'm the man in charge of the butter. There will always be someone in charge of the butter, and the plates, and the knives, the forks. And we have to get along with everyone. When you're out there job hunting, I'm talking about the gatekeeper. How many people talk to themselves? Need a show of hands. People talk to themselves, okay. 75%. 25% didn't raise your hands. I can just hear you now saying to yourself, who, me? I don't talk to myself. Hey, but I want you to talk to yourself, okay? I want you to coach yourself. I want you to ask yourself, how am I doing? That's what I do all the time. I want you to make a commitment to yourself. I want you to evaluate yourself. 10 most powerful two-letter words in the English language. If it is to be, it is up to me. Very important. In other words, you want to ignite your own passion. There's hardly anything that we can't do once we put our mind to it. Now, allow me to switch gears right now and talk about the book. You don't have to pick it up or anything. You all have a copy of it. And let me go through just some highlights in the book. I'm on a 30-city book tour. Last 6 weeks, 28 cities down. This is my 29th city. 2 cities, 1 city to go. Very proud that, again, that book hit number 4 in the New York Times, USA Today, Wall Street Journal. Went back to press 7 times in the last 4 weeks. So I got a nice runaway bestseller. Only reason why I say that, not to be self-serving, but hopefully you'll all take a very, very good look at it. That's all. So let me set the table if I can. Now these are not typos. This is Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics. There are as I speak, today, there are 14.8 million people looking for jobs, U.S. figures. 6.3 million have been looking for 7 months or more. 1.5 million 5 years ago was that number. Today, that's 5 years ago. Today, it's 6.3 million. Average college graduate, he or she, by age 38, will have 10 to 14 different job changes in his or her career. And 3 to 5 different career changes, if you can believe that. That's what they're predicting. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about a perpetual job search. Very, very important. And then, this is Time Magazine now, which is hard to believe, okay? But in 2007, they said 77% of all Americans don't like their jobs. And just last month, a study came out, I think it was Pew, 30% don't like their bosses. So again, here's some of my favorite chapters and stories from the book. One of the chapters is entitled, and you'll read it, Expose Yourself in the Privacy of Your Own Home. What do I mean by that title? If you get downsized, restructured, mergers, acquisitions, consolidations, downsizing again, right-sizing, any of those things happen to you along the way in the years to come, boom, what do? Well, you better right away get to your living room, get your kitchen cabinet. What's a kitchen cabinet? 2, 3, 4 friends that really care about you, close personal friends that'll help you. And go get that video camera, all right, and let them in your living room start firing away at some tough, substantive, in-depth questions at you to prepare you for your next interview. Over and over and over again. Have a mock interview. Now, can you imagine, incidentally, when you do that, what's going to happen? Well, the nervousness is going to go away, right? You're going to be way more relaxed, way more poised, way more confident. Those are all the things that will happen to you if you do this. Just imagine we were all lawyers, and we went through a 2-week tough trial, and now every one of us has to make a summation to the jury. Do you think we go in there and just make the speech? No. We practice on our partners over and over and over again. And so that's what you want to do when you're out there in the marketplace. Volunteerism. Once again, as soon as you're out there working for a job, and I think you should do this all your life, but boy, especially if you were downsized out of your job. And that is as follows. You volunteer, all right, for a nonprofit organization, a charitable organization. Why do I say that immediately? As soon as you're looking for a job, at the same time, get involved. Go with your heart. Find something that you really like. I happen to ring bells in Siberia, which is Minneapolis, in the cold, in the wintertime, the Salvation Army. I'm very active in the United Way for many, many years. It doesn't matter, boys and girls, whatever your favorite is, your passion. But you want to do this for 3 reasons. Every organization, nonprofit today, has 3 problems. Number 1, money. Number 2, money. Number 3, money. So when you join the organization, you're probably going to be called upon to raise some money, or you should. What does that mean? You're ringing doorbells. It means you're making presentations. You might have a couple people reporting to you where you're organizing them to raise money. You're going to get a lot of rejection. And what is rejection out there? Well, it's big time when you've been out there 7 months, let me tell you, if you're in that particular category. So now let's see what's unfolding here. You're looking for work, and boom, all of a sudden you're out there. What's happening? You're becoming a better salesperson. You're becoming a person that can handle rejection, a better manager. You're becoming a better communicator. You're becoming a better leader. And 67% of all jobs are found through networking. So you're networking at that organization, which means they might even hire you, believe it or not, which has happened a lot. And the best of all is, you feel good about yourself. You're out there raising some money. So very, very important to understand what this volunteerism is all about. I touched on this a little bit earlier in my remarks. Humanize your job search. People buy from other people, again, because of likability, because of chemistry, because of people skills, to repeat. You have to understand that. So we're going to apply for a job. Sure, we're going to Google the company. And we'll get into the invisible web and other things that I'll talk about in a few minutes. Sure, we're going to prepare to win about the company. What about the human being? What about that HR human resource person that's going to do the hiring? You can do all kinds of homework on that particular person and level the playing field. That's what I mean by that. When you go into the invisible web, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Now, don't pick up the book, but on the back of the book, here's what it says. Now, let's pick it up. Here's what it says in the back of the book. Do not read this book. It says, back cover. Do not read this book. Study it. Underline it. Highlight it. Use Post-it notes. And if you don't have a job after 6 months, I personally, and I sign it, back cover there, will give you your money back. So on this 30-city tour and a couple hundred interviews, radio, television, newspapers, magazine, people, 8 out of 10, how can you make a comment like that? I said, well, I've been doing this for 45 years. And 500 people through my front door in Minneapolis, 90% have gotten exactly what they want with these concepts. I said I was the first author in the United States, I believe, back in the late 80s when I wrote Swim with the Shark. I said to the publisher, pushed him over the cliff, money back if you don't like this book, Swim with the Sharks. And they printed it. First author. 5 million copies sold. 18 people asked for their money back. 7 of them were my best friends. I guess they wanted to keep me humble. Here's a couple of tips. Okay? How about making a DVD or so? How about leaving it with that HR person or whoever's doing the interviewing? 2, 3, 4 minutes smashing DVD. 9 out of 10 people never even think about that. How about when you can't get through to the gatekeeper? Boom. All of a sudden, you leave that with that person. And maybe that'll be the differentiator. Also, let's just say creatively, you want to get through to the gatekeeper or to the person doing the hiring. Use the invisible web. Again, I'll get that in a minute or two. And you find out about that person that's doing the hiring. And let's just say, well, let's take United Way this time. They like the United Way. You find that out. Write a little note. Dear, Ms., Mr., whatever, I'm trying to get an appointment with you, having some problems. I know you're active in United Way. I'd love to volunteer 10, 15, or 20 hours. You fill in the blank, okay? If you'll just see me. I'd like to volunteer for your favorite organization. You'll have that interview. Trust me. 9 out of 10 times. Those things mean a lot, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Very, very important. Know thy competitor. Know thy competitor. Very important. Let's say you're applying to Target. Boom. What should you do? Go to Walmart. Walk Walmart stores before the interview. All right? Talk to the managers. Find out pluses and minuses. Now you come in for the job at Target. Say, here's the music to the ears of every person doing the hiring. I've been doing a little research, and I found out blank. And then, I just walked the stores of your competitor, and here's my suggestions, or here's what I found out. Again, that will help you tremendously. Go to, again, HarveyMackay.com. You'll get the toolbar that I mentioned earlier. I do have a column that goes to 10 million newspapers. The last 18 years, once a week, there's a marketing idea in there or a business idea. You sign up for the column. That's a weekly column on there. Einstein's got 20 questions. Well, that's right, it's in your book. You shouldn't have to worry about that. Okay, and on the invisible web also. We just try to squeeze in one thing here, or a couple more things very, very briefly, then we'll have Q&A. Cream doesn't rise to the top, it works its way up. What are the qualities that make a good leader? And remember, we're all leaders. You don't have to be a general or a CEO or a president. We lead families, we lead teams at work, of course, at school. Marshall Loeb, editor-at-large, Fortune magazine, a friend. He spoke on 10 steps to effective leadership. I want to paraphrase plus provide a few steps of my own. Number one, leading is not managing. Late Grace Hopper, first woman admiral, U.S. Navy, she said, you manage things, but you lead people. Remember, a manager wants to be liked. A leader wants to be respected. Leaders have a sense of purpose. They think in terms of goals. Wayne Gretzky said, it's not where the puck is that counts, it's where the puck will be. In other words, leaders have that sense of where the culture is going to be, where the organization must be if it is to grow. Leaders are forceful. They've got a point of view and they express it clearly. You don't have to guess where they stand. Leaders are consistent. Former Intel CEO Andy Grove said, leaders have to rein in chaos. He calls it clarity of direction. Leaders are truthful, even when it hurts. Bill Gates put it this way, bad news must travel fast. He wonders if his most important job isn't to listen for, but act on bad news. It takes guts, he says, to admit bad news happens on your watch. Leaders concentrate on a couple big themes. President Carter was brilliant, but he got stuck sometimes on the details. He even scheduled the White House tennis courts. And I know that personally, first-hand information. Reagan couldn't remember a detail, but he stayed with the programs. He kept it short, simple. Leaders don't have to pretend they thought of everything themselves. Look at the companies that stopped innovating. Harvard professor Rosabeth Moss Cantor, many of you are familiar with him, sums it up. She says the leaders who get in trouble are the ones who get lucky and then don't realize it was luck. They think they know more than anyone else. And of course then arrogance sets in. I love the line from Fiddler on the Roof. Those who are rich really think they know. Innovation is more than a brainstorm from above, she went on to say. Leaders are made, not born. Repeat. Leaders are made, not born. They've climbed over obstacles, held back lesser people. People think leaders are born, not true. They're made, and not instantly, but over a lifetime. Leaders are continually striving to learn, improve themselves. One thing leaders have in common, they all have followers. How do you spot a leader? Leaders surround themselves with achievers, people with good moral character, not hacks and gophers. Peter Drucker wrote that General MacArthur, President Truman, General Eisenhower, President Lincoln, they all had different styles, but you could spot one common trait in these four. They all wanted able, independent, self-assured people around them. They encouraged their associates and subordinates, praising and promoting them. And lastly, leaders make everyone feel special. And all the people that are surrounded by them, the leader makes them better. Just two more, wind up. Figure well before you're thirsty is the next idea. Figure well before you're thirsty. That's one of the most important words in the English language. If we all understood a little bit better, we'd be way more successful than we already are. My choice would be Rolodex, the Rolodex file. My father headed the Associated Press, 35 years, Twin Cities, and he really was a good journalist. Of course, you don't stick around today for 35 years and collect a gold watch. But anyway, he got a hold of me age 18. He said, Harvey, every person you meet the rest of your life goes into a Rolodex file, obviously computer today. Rolodex file, a little bit about him on the back of the card. Now here's the key. Find a creative, underline and cap, creative way to keep in touch. That's what I've been doing since age 18. So let me talk about the publishing industry for a minute. There's 1 million people every year want to write a book. They print 200,000 from the 1 million manuscripts. 11,000 are business books. If you're a first-time unknown author, and you write a business book, and you get lucky, and you get published by one of the major houses, in my case it was William Morrow and Company, on Swim with the Sharks, they'll print 10,000 hardcover books. First-time unknown author. So I've got late 80s, Swim with the Sharks, 5,000 bookstores in the United States, they print 10,000. That's 2 books a store. That's pretty tough to get started. That's right, the Coop would only get 2 books, if you can believe that, back in the 80s, if I'm an unknown first-time author, which I was. So, summit meeting. Back up Tom Peters, the best, very good friend. In Search of Excellence, 10,000 hardcover books, unknown first-time author. Ken Blanchard, at dinner room 48 hours ago, 1 Minute Manager, 7,500 books, unknown first-time author. I'm unknown, first-time author, Swim with the Sharks. Summit meeting, CEO, President, VP National Sales. 45 minutes into the meeting, I asked for the order. Look at the 3 of them, we're in the boardroom. I said, I would like you to seriously consider printing 100,000 hardcover copies from the Sharks. On the 37th floor, they told me to jump. Thank you very much, Mr. Mackay. This is at William Morrow Company, one of the world's 5 best publishers at the time. Thank you very much, Mr. Mackay, says the sales manager, folds his papers, and then he screams at me. He said, who are you? Come in here and ask for 100,000 hardcover copies, first time, unknown author, first printing. Crazy? Well, I brought in, we're in the boardroom, I brought in 2 humongous briefcases, put them up on the table, took out 2 huge Rolodex files, 6,500 names. Since my father got a hold of me, age 18. Tried to go through in Pillsbury, 16,000 employees, do some envelope business with them. Maybe they'll read the book, maybe they'll pass it around. Here's General Mills, 23,000 employees. Here's 3M, here's Medtronic, here's Carlson Company, on and on. Go to the next Rolodex file, doing business about 6 countries, then 2022, 23 today. Here's France, Germany, Spain. Oh, here's Paco Pilates, Madrid, 2,000 employees. Maybe he'll read the book, maybe he'll pass it around. Maybe it'll be an international bestseller. 3 weeks and 3 meetings later, they published, printed 100,000 hardcover copies of Swim with the Sharks. And I know when I was 18, I'd be ready to book it. Any of you know where your contacts are going to come from 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now? No. So we dig our well before we're thirsty. We build a network. Nice to hear speakers, but trust me, person on your left, right, in front of you, behind you, as long as you live. That's the name of the game. Our lives basically change in 2 ways. People we meet and the books we read, which is so very, very important. And then if I can just give you the gist of what I've learned my whole life, my father sat me down for these meetings as follows. When my hand goes out and I meet anyone all over the world, no matter who or who, what, where, when, why, my hand goes out and I introduce myself. Right here to myself, talking to myself, I say to myself, what can I do for that person? Now here's the key. Expect nothing in return. You go your whole lives like that and build that network, your probability for happiness goes dramatically up. Your probability for financial reward goes dramatically up for contacts and for everything. Incidentally, you don't have to look at it, but this little gold mine here is the, again, the Rolodex book, and I just beg you to take a good look at that. Don't just peek at it, study it, underline it, highlight it, post-it notes. So, let's go on. If you want 1 year of happiness, then you grow grain. You want 10 years of happiness, you grow trees. You want 100% happiness, you grow people. And then to close is as follows. Put some fun and creativity into your business and your life. Fun and creativity in your business and into your life. I want to come at this from a different angle. Here's a letter received recently. The daughter is away at school and college, and she writes to her folks, first letter. Dear Mom and Dad, sorry to be so long in writing lately, but all my writing paper was destroyed the night the demonstrators burned down the dormitory. I'm out of hospital now, and the doctor says my eyesight should be back to normal sooner or later. Hey, that wonderful boy Bill, who saved me from the fire, kindly offered to share his little apartment with me till the dorm is rebuilt. He comes from a good family, Mom and Dad, so your shouldn't be too surprised when I tell you we're going to get married. In fact, Mom and Dad, you always wanted to have grandchildren, so you should really be happy knowing you're going to be grandparents next month. Please disregard the above practice in English composition. There was no fire, I haven't been in the hospital, I'm not pregnant, and I don't even have a boyfriend. But I did get a D in chemistry. And an F in French. I want to make sure you receive this news in the proper perspective. And she signs it, love, Mary. Now, we've all been so creatively one time or another. I had an unusual opportunity a few years back. Introduced Ted Koppel, 2,000 people, my school, University of Minnesota, annual alumni meeting. Did my homework, prepared to win. Remember, no cold calls anywhere. Got the gatekeeper. She informed me a lot of information. He's a tennis junkie, among many other things. Pick him up, Twin Cities International Airport, 20-minute ride. As soon as he's in the car, say, Ted, I love to play tennis. I see you're a tennis junkie. Next time you come to Twin Cities, bring your racket. We'll hit the ball around. Couple looks at, what time do I speak, Harvey? No, Ted, what time do I speak, Harvey? I always carry my tennis racket in my suitcase. We kept 2,000 people waiting. Went out, played some tennis. Got there a little bit late. He was terrific, standing ovation. Boom, took him back to the hotel, picked him up next morning, out to Twin Cities International Airport, come back to my office. All of us would write a note, wouldn't we? Dear Ted, you were terrific. Everybody loved you. Hope our paths would meet again. Wouldn't we do something like that? Boring. Wind up in the ash can. Think. So I took 2 days out and I started thinking. I came up with a tennis ball the size of this podium. A tennis racket 7 feet tall. Shipped at FedEx with this note in there. Dear Ted, here is to the star of Nightline to help him improve his sight line. Just line up the ball and then you whack it. You'll never miss one with this racket. And I signed it 6-0. I beat him 6-0 the first set. He was ahead of me 2-4 the second set. 24 hours later, Koppel sends back to me, Dear Harvey, when a man has real class, then he'll show it. Everyone in his sphere tends to know it. Tell me, why would he choose to risk all and then lose by pretending that he is a poet? He signs it 6-0, 6-0, 6-0, game, set, match, racket, ball, great. Many thanks, Harvey, for everything. Best regards, Ted Koppel. Now, why do I say that? Why do I mention Koppel? Because I know him. I want to brag that I know him. No, nothing could be further from the truth. The reason why I mention it, go to bookstores. Koppel doesn't endorse books. But because of a little creativity, a little differentiation, a little outside the box, he went on the cover of Swim with the Sharks. An unknown from Minneapolis, flyover state of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I took his signature and then ratcheted it up. Gee, Koppel thought this was a good book. Boom, boom. That's the reason why I mention it. And so the moral of the story again is, don't be boring. Don't be predictable. Don't ever make another presentation without giving a lot of thought. Don't ever pick up the phone and call for an appointment or a customer, anything else without being creative and snappy and maybe a little bit of humor in there. Don't ever write just another email. Don't ever write just another letter. Don't ever give another gift to anyone, spouse, significant other, kids, whatever, without giving a lot of thought. Customer, supplier, think. Hardest, most valuable task any person performs. Now, I forgot to mention about 5 minutes ago that this is my last speech. Never going to give another speech as long as I live. That's what I said an hour and a half ago when I walked through those doors. That's what I've been saying to myself the last 25 years, every time I had to give a speech. But also everything else that I have to do that's important, okay? If I'm playing in the golf championship, this is the last putt I'm ever going to hit in an athletic contest. This is the last serve. I'm making an acquisition, hopefully, next week in New York. And I'm saying to myself, this is the last acquisition I'm ever going to make in my life. It better be good. And that's the same thing when you're walking into interviews. This is the last interview I'm ever going to have in my whole life. And I'm going to prepare to win. And I'm not just walking in there cold. I'm going to move mountains. That's the reason why I said to myself, this is my last speech. You've been a marvelous audience. Well, thank you very, very much. We have some time for Q&A. Q&A means question and avoidance. Nobody ever likes to be the first one to ask a question, so I'll take the second question. Second question, yes. If you can hear, I won't have to repeat the question. Yes.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you so much. That was so wonderful. You mentioned coaching, so I was wondering if you can say more. How did you identify the areas that you need coaching for, and how did you find coaching?
Sure. The question then, if you couldn't hear, is talk about coaching for a moment. How did I identify the areas of coaching? Well, first of all, when I went out and I wanted to run marathons, I run 10 of them. I run the Boston Marathon. Stopping with the Wellesley women there, it cost me about 5 minutes. And some hugs and all that. But I don't know anything about marathons. I know that you can get hurt if you don't know what you're doing. I know you can read books on marathons, but there's no substitute for a coach. So I got a coach, and he ran the marathon with me. We became friends. He ran all 10 marathons. Whatever I do, if I don't know anything, I'll go for the best teaching again there is. So I've had 10 or 12 or 15 coaches. If you're all looking for a job, there are people out there that are career coaches. And they will help you. They will prepare you, as my book will prepare you. There's 20 tough questions in there you have to be ready to answer. There's all kinds of good questions you should ask when you're in the interview looking for a question. How many think they're going to be looking for work in the next 1 or 2 or 3 years? See, show of hands? Okay. So what you want is you want choices, you want probability. Yes, it's tough out there, but it's not tough, from my perspective, if you know what you're doing. And because you're here, the probability's gone way up. And maybe you're not going to get what you want the first time out, but that's okay. All right, what's important is long-term. Long-term meaning 1, 2, 3, 4 years. You can't start at the top and work up. It doesn't work that way. All right, so regarding coaching, whatever you do if you want to get better at it, maybe you're with the computer and you're having some problems and you just can't really become as proficient as you want. So what do? Hit the web, your own city, whatever, and you come over, you go take lessons on the computer. 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 hours. Take copious notes. I played golf for the University of Minnesota. I can make my living playing golf. I still have my notes from 50 years ago when I played at the University of Minnesota. Still have my notes. So whatever endeavor you're going to embark on, even, I like to say you're awful young, but even the Lone Ranger had Tonto. You can't do it all by yourself. And so there's no substitute for coming out of an interview and being able to share it with 2 or 3 or 4 friends. Remember the kitchen cabinet, which are just like coaches? They're your own personal board of directors. Your own personal board of directors is your kitchen cabinet. It's beautiful to bounce off ideas. It's beautiful to have those people expose yourself, living room, your own home. Those are coaches, basically. You're not paying those friends. But if you have and you're paying them some money, all right, you're not spending a penny. You're making an investment in yourself, and that money is going to come back 5, 10, 25, 50-fold, 100 times more. So you're never spending any money for coaching to get better. I hope that answers your question. It's a good question. Yes?
Gene Kogan is my name. I'm doing my PhD in international relations at Brandeis. My question, Mr. Mackay, is about what you mentioned about networking and making contacts. And I think you said, Lou Holt said that keep in touch creatively.
Yes.
How do you do that when I make contacts? People ask me, so what is it that you're looking for? You're still in the program. You're not looking for a job right now. I mean, apart from telling them that I want to dig my well before, because I am planning ahead. And I want to make that contact and have a Rolodex of people I know. How do I explain what it is exactly I am after?
Sure. Good question. I think you can all hear that with the microphone. Well, I started out and I said 6,500 names. I have now on my computer 12,800 names. So round up 13,000. Every person knows about 200 people. That's about 2.6 million contacts in 80 countries around the world, plus locally, or maybe 80% 20, 90, 10. So every person knows a couple hundred people. No, the minute you shake hands, if you're going to try to use that person, then you can forget all about it. I told you. You have to say, what can I do for that person? So therefore, it's the 66 question customer profile, even though they're not a customer. You want to know, you have to have a deep down burning desire to know about every person that you meet. And once you can do that and find out a little bit about them, and then again, put that down in writing after you meet them, it has to be recorded. All right, then they're just like customers, but they're friends. Then you're going through and you know all about these people. Now you're reading National Geographic and you happen to know I'm going to Africa with my children next month, and you see, you met me 3 months ago, I told you about my African trip, you're reading National Geographic and here's 15 pages. Boom, clip it out, I call it clip and ship. You clip it out and you ship it, FYI, for your information. That's just keeping in touch with your network creatively. I have a friend named Richard Berkeley, mayor of Kansas City for 12 years. 12 years. How did he do that? Especially, he happened to be a Republican, and I think it was a Democratic city, as I recall. 12 years, how did he do it? Well, he had a passion as a kid, a camera. And he always had the high-tech camera, whatever it was in those decades, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s. What did he do? Everywhere he went, every chamber of commerce, every wedding, every bar mitzvah, of course you got to be out there, all right? Every meeting, he would always whip out his camera, take some pictures of some people, FYI, for your information. I think he took over 25,000 pictures. Just in the last 12 months, he's in San Francisco. He's walking down a street where there's a bookstore on the main streets in San Francisco, sees my book, okay? Takes a picture of it, through the window, FYI, for your information. You think I'd vote for him? Okay, if I lived in Kansas City? So that's how he kept in touch with his network. What I did for 25 years is I called it spin to win. Spin to win, not clip and ship. Clip and ship is one thing. You always want to clip and ship anything and everything to anybody in your network. Good way to keep in touch. But mine now, another asset is spin to win. What do I mean by that? Every Sunday morning, 6 a.m., I'd start spinning my Rolodex, which we didn't have computers in those days, and I'd call from 6 in the morning to 11 at night. And I would be in touch. How's the family? How's this? Last time we talked 3 months ago, this. And I've been in touch with hundreds and hundreds of people. I've got friends that make thousands and thousands of calls. And of course, you can still do that email now, too, with your network. So usually 80-20, that's a business term. 80-20, you get 80% of your business for 20% of your accounts. So if you've got 1,000 people in your network, about 200 you really want to keep in touch with throughout the year. The other 800 every other year, whatever, and that'll come true. So the network is, what can you just keep your antenna up as to what you do for all these other people, and it'll come naturally. Something happens, hey, I'm looking for work, or I just moved to New York, and I categorize all my friends in all my cities. So if I'm going to Tucumcari, New Mexico, but let's just say I'm going to Columbus, Ohio. And over the last 40 years, I've met 80 people, or 70 people. I get a printout of that before I get on the plane. And when I'm sitting around for 48 hours, I know the 70 people, the rest of all my life, that I know in Columbus. And I'll at least hit 5 or 10 of them that I'm here, and maybe something will trigger that I want to meet 1 or 2. So I'm always doing that in every city that I go to. So it's a good question. I think, let's see if I can find this. I'm not sure. Just take one quick look about a network. I don't think I might be able to, but that's too tough. Okay, hold on one more minute. Yeah, here it is. This is what I wrote. In today's shark eat shark economy, talent alone will not save you. Genius will not. Experience will not. Guts and hard work will not. If you need a job, money, advice, help, hope, or a means to make a sale, there's only one surefire, fail-safe place to find them. Your network, but only if you have one. And so,
Harvey, we're going to, I
That's
wish
it.
we had more time for the.
I ran over 5 minutes, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yep.
only because they're going, we're being kicked out of here.